Hey guys, Sunday, March 31st, Easter Sunday. We're above 70,000, 70,400. And this is episode 66, A Tale of Three Bull Markets. Okay, let's go to a presentation here that I did. 1 second. All right, and this is a tale of three bull markets, 2017, 2020, 2021, and 2024. Okay, so 98% of all Bitcoin's rise in the last 7 years, has happened in a space of 2.5 years. Actually, 98% of Bitcoin's rise, period, has happened in 2.5 years. In 2017, the market went from 1,000 to 20,000. In 2020, September to November 2021, a period of 15 months, market went from 10,000 to 69,000. And in 2024, the market's already up 67% year to date with massive ETF flows. So I view this as the third big bull market. There's three takeaways here. First is that these bull markets are massive. In the last two, we went up 20x and 6x. They are quick. Most of the last ones lasted less than 18 months, and they were followed by vicious, absolutely soul-searching bear markets that basically went from "will never come back." So let's take a look at 2017. 2017, we started the year right around 1,000. We went up at a peak of 19,000. So we went up, let's call it 20,000. We went up 20x, and then we crashed. If we look at how this happened, well, the Bitcoin on-chain addresses, as I've mentioned, were rising very, very steadily on a power law, which I can graph here, and then they absolutely crashed in November of 2017. So we had this steady increase up till 2017, and then just a complete wipeout. The narrative of 2017 was not Bitcoin. It was ETH and ICOs. ETH started about $7 in 2017 and rose all the way up to $1,400. So ETH far outperformed Bitcoin. ETH went up 200x versus Bitcoin's miserable 20x. And there was this narrative of flippening. We're not hearing it so much these days, but absolutely a lot of people thought we were going to flippen Bitcoin, that ETH was going to become the new cryptocurrency. What was driving ETH was ICOs. So ICOs was completely driving ETH. 11 billion was raised in 2017, 10 billion in 2018. So a total of 21 billion poured into ICOs. EOS, just one of those ICOs, raised $4 billion and settled with the SEC. And by the way, plowed a lot of those billions into Bitcoin, actually. So Block One is one of the larger owners of Bitcoin at this point. But the key thing here is we had $21 billion of kind of new money that went into ICOs, and a whole bunch of money, I don't know the exact number, went into buying ETH, but not so much Bitcoin. And Bitcoin kind of still managed to go up 20x in that period. ETH almost flipping Bitcoin. It went up 80% of Bitcoin in as early as May of 2020, so May of 2017. It's of course never managed to do much afterwards. It's kind of currently about a third of the market cap of Bitcoin. The crash was brutal. We went from 20,000 to 3,500. 2018 was just a very dark period. 2019 was better, but it still felt pretty downtrodden. The entire address growth that I mentioned before was completely broken. We dropped 50% in like 3 months from November 2017 to early 2018. And now, in 2020, we have the second big bull market. And this really happened in September of 2020. You can kind of see it started percolating right there, and then bam, okay, September, November, and then December, we just hit bam. And then, of course, it carried on a little bit further in January of 2021. We peak, and then we come down, and we peak again, right? So active addresses came back, okay? They came right back all the way up through that sort of first peak of 2020, and they were growing at a 29% CAGR, kind of right from this dramatic fall. But kind of the model broke here, so it's no longer the case that Bitcoin kind of addresses were growing on this power. That sort of narrative no longer worked. The narrative then became yield. So we have Terra Luna Anchor. There was $40 billion that were put into the Terra Luna, to the Terra stablecoin, $40 billion. Celsius got $25 billion. Abra got billions. BlockFi got billions. So, there was a total of, potentially up to $100 billion that went into stablecoins. Just insane, right? Bitcoin, and some of that bought Bitcoin, right? So Terra Luna kind of famously bought Bitcoin at the very end. So, billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself was driven by an ARB from Three Arrows Capital and funded by Genesis. And they're kind of, this was, 3AC is sort of on the run right now, these guys. And so it was a big ARB. It was a very few people. And MSTR leveraged up to buy Bitcoin. So they leveraged up $2 billion at the time. So, a lot of the Bitcoin movement in the 2020 movement was really just done by a few people, Genesis and MicroStrategies. Really, again, much more the narrative was alts. FTX raised $2 billion from VCs. Solana hit a $70 billion market cap. AVAX, others soar. There's just a lot of speculation. And it's not really about Bitcoin here. And again, the crash is just as brutal as before. We went from 69,000 to 15,000, so on a percentage basis, not as bad, but a ton of money was lost outside of Bitcoin on Terra Luna, Celsius, etc. And kind of from a narrative perspective, there was some jail time this time for Sam Bankman-Fried, Do Kwon, and others. So summary, like the 2017 bull, Bitcoin's not front and center here. This bull market lasted just 15 months. There was massive speculation. There's a massive hangover. And really only about 15% of this kind of money came into BTC. So the one thing I would say here is the amount of money that went into this 2020 speculative frenzy was 5x bigger than the amount of money that went into the 2017 frenzy. But again, it wasn't targeted towards Bitcoin. It was targeted towards all these yield-bearing stable coins. And now we find ourselves in the third bull. This time, the drivers, the ETFs. There's been, we've gone up 500. We've added 500,000 new Bitcoin in just 3 months in these non-GBTC things. Now that's just enormous, right? Especially considering we really only started in January 10th, the ETF, January 11th, actually, the ETF. So, 5 times 35,000, 70,000 is 35 billion. But, obviously this wasn't all done, at 70,000. It was done a little earlier. So let's just call it 25 billion in new flows. That's really significant. Again, that's just over a couple months. Looks like it could be 100 billion this year. Wouldn't surprise me, especially if you look back at kind of the previous bull market. 100 billion, we almost got to that in terms of money going into BlockFi and Terra and Celsius and everything else. So the money's out there, and the money could come, and the money looks like it is coming into, this time, the ETF market. So we're off to the races. In just the 3 months, we're up 66% year to date. And yeah, this time the narrative is Bitcoin. Alts are screaming. Solana's back to its all-time high in market cap. Yes, there's some action in ordinals and BRC20s and things like that. But right now, the real story is Bitcoin ETFs, sort of TradFi meets Bitcoin. That's kind of what I've been talking about for quite some time on Twitter. And if history teaches us anything, we could go up a lot here. We could go up 6x like the previous time. We could go up 20x. We could go up even more. Who knows? One thing that's very clear is that when the speculative wheels start going, we can get, greed is sort of more powerful than fear on the upside. But once we crash, once greed ends, fear starts. And we could have a very fast bull market followed by a really vicious and terrible crash. So that's episode 66. I think that's the right episode. That is a tale of 3 bull markets. I hope you guys have enjoyed my presentation. Hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions. Thank you.